In this hard economic climate, we are still bouncing back from the recession, which may be affecting people when looking for property loans. Head of Lending, Ashley Ilsen, is here with us today from Regentsmead to talk about this. Hi Ashley, and welcome.
Thank you.
So what challenges are people facing when looking for property loans?
I think it's hard at the moment. There's quite a lot of options available. There's a lot of liquidity in our market at the moment. But I think typically people are still stuck in the mindset of going to their high street bank and perhaps stopping there when looking further for finance. There are other lenders available. There's peer-to-peer funding, which has opened up in quite a big way, and alternative funding, which is also a very growing part of the sector at the moment. So I think one of the main challenges is knowing who to go to, who to trust, who's been there for a while, who the main players are. So it can be a minefield for people borrowing.
And what are SMEs looking for?
I think SMEs have different challenges. They need to know they've got a surety of funding. They need to know they've got the speed available and, of course, the ability to deliver too. So it's important that they're going to the right people, asking the right questions and having a conversation beyond their typical high street lender. And
what are the solution then for SMEs?
I think SMEs need to be able to go and speak to their relevant introducer. There's a lot of brokers out there that they could be able to talk to. There is advice out there, particularly the government is now putting more schemes together to actually try and make alternative funding more viable and a more reasonable product for SMEs.
And do you see a lot more development in brownfield sites?
I think at the moment, particularly with permitted development, which has taken off in quite a big way, we're seeing schemes that perhaps wouldn't have been viable several months ago or several years ago actually come to fruition. But Brandon Lewis wants to build 1 million houses by 2020. We're going to need more schemes such as this to actually take off, because at the moment we're nowhere near hitting that target. Permitted development really is just scratching the surface to what could be done to help provide more housing. One of the things we hear from a lot of our clients is can they get the speed of funds to actually be able to bid on sites quickly? Can they go to auction and knowing that they've got a significant backer behind them and move quickly when a site is available? It's all about freeing up more sites and freeing up more funding to make those sites viable projects.
Yeah, and is it actually harder to get loans in certain areas of London?
I don't think so. I think, if anything, perhaps the opposite. So there's more funding available in London, more lenders want to be there. I think as soon as we start going out of London, there's a slightly less liquidity. That being said, we're seeing schemes in various parts of the country, up in the Midlands, Bristol, on the south coast that have got fantastic schemes. There's great profitability in them, and there's some super housing being built.
So going forward, where do you see the market going?
I think there's more lenders entering the market at the moment, which is interesting because it's already a very saturated marketplace, particularly in the alternative finance and peer-to-peer side. I think more lenders will continue to enter. At the moment, we've got, of course, Brexit on the horizon, which is causing some hesitance towards people actually looking to borrow at the moment. I think after that, where we go beyond then is down to how much more liquidity we're seeing. Cheaper funding is available as well, and I think people are lapping it up. So it's a good time to be developing. It's just whether or not people are aware that there's a whole world of alternative finance beyond that.
And are a lot more people borrowing lately?
I think more people are aware there's more alternative finance. I think people are able to access alternative finance more easily. But I think, as I said, there's got to be controls and who's lending. People, it's got to make sure that there's suitable underwriting practices to make sure that people are lending in ways that perhaps were done before the recession, where we got ourselves into trouble. I think in some instances we're seeing a case of history repeating itself, and worrying that people are lending at loan to values that are perhaps too high, putting the clients at risk and putting people at risk in their projects by perhaps over lending and supplying too much funding. Yeah,
you just mentioned over lending. I was just about to ask that. Is there massive over lending in the industry at all?
I wouldn't say so, but we're staring down the barrel of it, certainly. As I said, there's a lot of lenders available. There's a lot of new lenders coming into the market that perhaps don't have that property experience, that perhaps don't understand what happens when something goes wrong. So that's why it's all the more important when selecting an alternative finance provider that they've got relevant property experience, that they've been doing it a long time, and that they're lending their own funds as well. The other side of things too is that a lot of lenders are perhaps under pressure from perhaps their investors or their wholesale funding lines to actually make sure that they get that out, that get the funding out there. At the same time, that's how mistakes happen, is when they're it's a quick underwriting process, but they're perhaps not looking at the finer details or able to find some conclusions when there's problems going wrong. So I think it can be a bit of a minefield at the moment.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Ashley. Thank you for coming in to us today.
Thank you for your time.
Well, that was Ashley Ilsen from Regentsmead in studio with us today.